afternoon. How's everybody doing? Good? How was your weekend? Anything exciting? Anything exciting?
No.
Alright. Hey, anything, so who has something to share with us about trends, consumer behavior things? One person, two person, three persons, don't be shy. 4, 5. No? Okay. Alright, so we have 5 people. We'll do that at the end of class. I'll lecture first. Okay, moving along, right? This segment talks about ethics, right? Consumer ethics, the marketplace, and the planet. Okay, why are we focused on this? Right, we say, hey, how our ethical sort of navigation is as a society, as a community, usually dictates the things that will be offered to consumers, which inevitably dictates what people buy. Right? And so we're going to look at how government plays a role in that, how the law plays a role, how this quote unquote dimension of ethics. Hey, what is ethics? What's ethics to you? Yeah.
It's like the principles you live by.
Yeah, you could say some sort of personal constitution that you have, personal philosophy, ideology about what, generally speaking?
It kind of guides your decision making. I guess in business it would be like the first question in the discussion post, I felt like was the question of ethics. Like to sell like addictive resources in low poverty areas, like that's an ethics question.
Okay, like, hey, highly impoverished areas where there's a high degree of consumer goods being pushed in those environments. Is that unethical to you? Is it unethical to sell a bunch of cheap stuff to a bunch of poor people? Or even not a bunch of cheap stuff, that you're trying to entice poor people to live like they're wealthy. Poor people who could buy Louis Vuitton, Gucci, but can't really even pay their own rent. Or live in a very high crime, impoverished area. Unethical or no? What do you think?
I personally would lose sleep if I was pushing goods that you couldn't sustainably like live off of.
Okay. All right, so we say here, you know what? I don't think that's right. There's something about it that seems wrong. Right? What could be done about it? I don't know. Could it be pushed to boycott those activities? Can we get the government involved to change some of the legislation? What could we do to make it more ethical? And then on the flip side, someone's like, oh well, that's called the free market. You know, hey, they made the decision. I'm not putting a gun to their head to buy Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and they can't pay their own rent, right? Because they want to, like, but you do maybe have to notice well, obviously poor people probably live day to day not feeling that great about life or about themselves. So you have to do something to feel better about yourself, right? We still love, human beings have a proclivity for comfort, right? To be pleasant, right body temperature, to feel good about yourself. You do it at any means possible, right? You use anxiety by going maybe smoke. You're like, hey man, I'm really poor and broke and I'm homeless, but guess what? If I get some drugs today, I'll feel good. So inevitably, feel good, no matter what. No matter if you think it's right, if you think it's wrong, you're like, how do they go about doing it? We all want to feel good. We just do it in different ways depending on different circumstances and situations. But something to consider, right? We're like, hey, it's not just us, there's a larger society at play, and how do we view ethics, unethical behavior, right? And sustainability. How sustainable is it to the environment? We all gotta breathe the same air, so if someone's polluting the air, we can't just like forget about it, like, 'cause they're breathing it too, even if they own the corporation, right? Children are probably breathing it, if it's coming out their cars or, right, the coal mine or whatever the case may be, right? Bad water, we gotta drink the water too, right? For the most part, I use it to shower at least, if you live in that area, not everybody has a filter. So there's some things that are, sort of a high degree of social concern. We're gonna kind of take a look at more of what that means. Alright, so, in this section, we're gonna look at PESTLE. Anyone familiar with PESTLE? Anyone unfamiliar with PESTLE? Raise your hand. Okay. Alright, so we'll learn about PESTLE framework, right? So we can kind of keep that in mind, as we even talk about our projects later. Summarize how the political environment affects consumer decision making, right? How do politics play in whether you buy something or not. Right now it's high degree inflation, so you're probably not splurging like you normally would. You're probably more critical about what you buy. Right? You've changed your consumer behavior because things are expensive. Right? You may buy alternatives and substitutes as opposed to brand names. Like, hey, normally I would go buy the brand name store, and now I'm going to Shein and Temu. It seems it's too expensive, but it looks just as good. It may not last as long, quality may not be superior, but you know what? It looks good. That's what I needed for. Next, we'll discuss how the economic landscape affects customers' access to the marketplace, right? How things are available or not available. Think of before we had this big sort of exploitation of Chinese products to the marketplace. We're talking like Sheins and the Temus. Like those are game changers, right? Because before you're like, hey, no, I gotta like buy from these websites or this particular platform, and they don't have everything. They don't have everything cheap, right? But once we open up the floodgates to the global marketplace, you're like, man, I could look just as fancy as anybody else on a dime. It may be the same thing, but things have changed. So literally, going back to say impoverished areas, that's what we've seen, right? Since there's been access to the global marketplace, people are able to get very cheap goods, right? That have sort of the appeal of more expensive goods. Or the companies have made it possible for you to afford expensive things, even if you don't make much money. For example, who has an iPhone? Who bought the iPhone outright full price? Who uses their service provider to get the phone? AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, right? Like you wouldn't buy it outright. It's kind of unaffordable. I mean, anybody that drops $1,600, $1,700 on an iPhone, right? You probably hold on to your old phone as long as possible, and maybe buy the older model phones that may be now like $500, $600 something. But you don't. You probably have one at least, 2 versions ago at max. And so they made it. The environment made it possible to have access to the iPhone. Right? It was a very expensive product. And then we're going to explain the ways marketers respond to social issues that shape consumer behavior. Right? A lot of social issues, the thing is, all the information is out there. So depending on what a company promotes themselves as, if they want to get into politics, right? If they want to make a message, then they're at risk. They're at risk probably either to be canceled, right, for saying the wrong thing, or sort of taking one side over the other. Think about that. Sometimes you're placed in a position and you're like, well, which side do you take? You're like, either way you lose. Right? You lose to one group or another because there's always a bias. Right? So people are like, hey, which are you left or are you right? Right? Are you this or are you that? Are you pro this or are you anti that? Right? No matter where you go, you're probably losing out on a half of the population to some degree, right? Because everybody's kind of picking sides. We live in extremes when it comes to politics and the messages now. But for the most part, he's like, hey, I do gotta get political. As a business, or even potentially as a consumer. Think about it, we have holidays that are religious. We have holidays dedicated to particular ethnic groups or race. Right, and those businesses probably promote that, right? A certain time, a certain holiday, a certain something, that's political. You may be against that thing. You may not like that group. So we're always kind of involved in politics, whether it's consumers or the businesses themselves, right? Something to consider. And then next we'll describe the technological changes that are creating new challenges for consumer protection, right? We'll look at how your information's out there being sold all over the place without your knowledge, and explain how the legal environment influences consumer behavior, describe how consumer behavior directly impacts the environment. All right, so what is the right thing to do? Business ethics are rules of conduct that guide actions in the marketplace. So we say ethics are a tool of guidance. They guide people's actions, right? We're trying to promote our own narrative of ethics, probably depending on, hey, who's in power at the time. Is there a political movement, some sort of social movement at the time, right? We're trying to guide people to be like, no, you should act this way, right? This is what you should value. This is how you should act. But there are cultural differences as what is considered ethical. What are some cultural differences in ethics? Who can give me an example? Maybe even when it comes to like business or anything of the sort. Hey, $1,600 iPhone, but the person who's making it says now they're making better wages in China, but before when it first came out, like the first iPhone, I don't know, people could have been paid 50 cents an hour, US dollars converted. Is that ethical? Under really bad working conditions, 18 hours a day, something crazy, 16 hours a day, to make that iPhone so that we could buy it. Is that ethical or unethical from your point of view? What do you think? Right thing or wrong thing to do? Yeah.
I would say it's unethical for them to be paid that little, especially in those working conditions. But it is good that they are at least getting paid.
You're like, hey man, there's some, okay, doesn't seem fair, doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem right. But then like, wait, whose perspective are we taking? Are we taking American perspective? That's a whole nother country, a whole nother history, a whole nother culture, a whole nother economy. Maybe that's the average minimum wage in that area, right? Maybe we wouldn't want them telling us how much we should minimally pay people, right? Maybe we wouldn't want China to say, hey, your minimum wage should be blah, blah, blah. We're like, shut up, right? Everybody, this is our country, this is our culture. We got a different economy, right? There are different things going on. The whole system, process is different. Or you can say, hey, you know, regardless of that, if we're supposed to be quote unquote this leader of a nation, maybe it's still unethical. Maybe it's the principle of it that's bad. Right? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we should still pay people something where they don't have the type of working conditions and that livelihood. Right? But there are cultural differences, and they have to be taken into consideration. Anybody can think of any other cultural differences? What about in France? What's the difference in terms of business ethics or ethics in general, as opposed to say here in the US? Anything you could think of? Is more power given to the consumers? Is more power given to the businesses? What do you think?
I heard that it's different the way that workers here in companies or like offices and everything, we don't have the same way to talk to people and everything. So it's a difference when you work in an American firm, they don't say the thing like French people, so maybe you think it's good, but actually it's bad.
So is it that Americans and sort of the corporate world are too direct, too aggressive?
No, I think in France when I heard like in France when you do a bad thing, the people say, well, you do it wrong. If you do it again, you like take the door or anything. But in American way, they said that you said, oh, you do it that's right, and it's like you do the good thing, but this is not good, and you just heard what you did good, but not the bad thing. So you take out and you say, oh, I did it great, but you didn't hear the bad thing.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. You're like, hey, in France, they identify the mistakes, right? So that you can try to, and they'll get feedback, input on how to sort of improve. On Americans, maybe we promote something that's always the positive without trying to improve the negative aspect of maybe work performance or office culture or something of the sort. It kind of makes sense. You think about it, the French invented the metric system. The very meters, centimeters, you know what I mean? So the French are about really improvements on things, even when it comes to like measurement. So it makes sense. Americans, on the other hand, were like, hey, you know what, we may disregard the bad stuff. It's because we always gotta look good. Right? We always gotta look powerful and look positive, like we have not made any mistakes, right? And a lot of people from around the world kind of take that away. They're like, oh man, we could clearly see all the bad stuff, but you just kind of sweep it under the rug in America, right? Because you still have to be big brother. Don't show any sort of weakness. So bad that you have your own measurement system. No coincidence. We have the metric system, and we have the American system of counting, measuring, right? Feet versus meters, right? Liters versus gallons. You go to a gas station in Canada, it's in liters. Now you gotta pull out your calculator because you know how to convert, right? Come back to America, $3.99 a gallon. Like, why you got your own counting system? Why don't you just work with the rest of the world and integrate it? Like, you can't, we're America. We gotta have our own brand, right? We gotta own it like Apple owns everything, the operating system, the app store, everything, right? And that's sort of the method that we've taken. Consumers are increasingly concerned about the impact of marketing activities on important social justice issues, right? All right, advertisers are often blamed for promoting a materialistic society. We just kind of talked about that for impoverished neighborhoods. But we can maybe say that, hey, the world is becoming way more materialistic. The world is democratizing. Like I said before, countries that were very religious and very traditional, a lot of things are being allowed. It's kind of going out the window, right? Dubai is kind of a prime example of that, right? A lot of things are becoming way more loose, right? To the point probably in the future, you're like, just call yourself a democracy at this point, right? Even places like Saudi Arabia, their cultural things, religious things are becoming more lax. right? Because of consumerism, materialism. People want the Lexus, they want the Mercedes, they want the BMW, they want the Bentley, they want the big house, they want the fancy clothes, right? They want all of that. By making their products as desirable as possible. Do you agree with this? Right? That advertisers often blame for promoting materialistic society. Is materialism a bad thing? We can think of ourselves, how much stuff we buy. Think about how many clothes you have, how many shoes you have. Right? You'll look fresh to death 7 days a week. Is this a bad thing or a good thing? Your opponent.
I don't think it's a good way to live, being materialistic.
Yeah, you're like, all right, so materialism, consumerism, just a high degree of consumption is not good because it doesn't allow people to save. That might be an argument, right? If you can't save, you can't never escape poverty, right? You never really get out of your situation, you know what I mean? Who can think of a positive thing from materialism? Yes.
It welcomes like a variety. So like, let's say I was a consumer that like was fascinated with like shoes. So like the more shoes that I buy, the more variety it aids.
Yeah, you like, yeah, think about it. Well, it may have given more alternatives that didn't exist before, right? Like, all right, they got the Jordans, but they didn't have a gazillion colorways of Jordans. Now you can get any Jordan, you get Regina, they even customize it. You're like, that's awesome, right? Why? Because in America, we consider ourselves unique individuals, individualistic society. It's about me, right? I want everything to be personalized and customized to me. And before that didn't exist. But now since we have so many players in the game and we've diversified, we got a lot of materialism that is good for the companies and for the people who want things a certain way. Who could think of other negative reasons why it would be bad? Yeah.
I just feel like we're buying things that we don't need, and then like once you get started, like sometimes you can't stop.
You like waste. What do we do with the waste? Right? There's a lot of waste. Not only wasteful to our personal lives, you're like, oh, I used it for a couple weeks and I forgot about it. Why? Look at 5 of those same things. You're like, well, okay, we see mental health. It's becoming an issue around the globe. We can maybe say there's a direct relationship with consumerism and mental health. They're both going in the same direction. Like mental health wasn't this big. And it didn't exist in other societies like that, right? Because they're more of a group society. But now we say, hey, this consumerism may be correlation with mental health issues. People are not satisfied. Their attention spans are low. Buy one thing, you get another one a week later. That corresponds with the TikTok mentality, dopamine kicks. I need a new dopamine, right? Antsiness, we gotta check our phones, check social media. We gotta check it. We can't stop ourselves. Life is boring. We need new dopamine, right? We need a new reward. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, this could be like a negative way to look at the world, but, you know, no matter where you are in your life, like, sometimes your life can just, like, flip in an instant. So, like, for instance, like, let's say you wanna go out and buy something. Right now, you're like, okay, this is in the budget, this is good. Then, you know, life can hit a quick 180 on you, and you're like, oh crap, I just bought this, like, super materialistic, like, water fountain outside the house. Like, I don't need that no more. And then, you know, so while yes, if you're like doing well, like I don't see the problem with materialistic stuff, but like, you know, there are more important things like that you need to value instead of just like buying the newer stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, remember, I think we talked about that's one of the value systems that culture have is time orientation. Are you a society that only worries about today and tomorrow? Or are you a society that worries about the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Because if it changes, everything changes. I always said Portillo's offers that when you work a shift, you can cash out, not be your paycheck, right? That wasn't really available most people used to get paid every 2 weeks, right? The greatest was every week. But now you're like, literally, why would you want people to be able to cash out as a business? Why would you want people to be able to cash out after their shift? What would be the point? To make their, whatever they made. They made $90, they made $150. What would be the reason for that? You think from a Portillo's perspective? Portillo's is a restaurant, hamburger, hot dogs, pretty popular around Chicago area. What do you think is the reason for that?
Their employees might be more likely to go out and spend the money that they just got right away. They'll go out and say, okay, I just made $90. I'm gonna go buy a new t-shirt, and it feels good in their brain to like get that rush of, I just made $90. I can spend it now, as opposed to, I have to wait another week before I get paid again.
Yeah, you're like, hey, we have people, we've noticed a trend to where there's people here who can't wait. So they quit the job, or they even don't wanna work here if they gotta wait to get paid, right? Oh, so we need more employees, typically younger generation employees, right? Maybe even younger than yourselves. Who's like, hey, I don't have the responsibilities, but I would like to go buy me some new shoes that I really want. I need them now, right? So it changes everything, right? It changes, there's a high degree of turnover. Those people aren't gonna be expected to work there 20 years. They're being expected to work there probably a year at most, right? Before they realize that that's not enough money, to even sustain a real life, because their responsibilities will change. It's like, I can't work and do this if I actually have an apartment to pay for, right? Or a car note or something of the sort. All right, and so here's our PESO framework. We'll kind of reiterate and talk about this throughout the semester, right? But PESO is an acronym for political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental sort of domains, right? So we say things in these particular domains that can change things about consumer behavior, right? Or even the marketing behavior of companies, right? First is political, P, we say consumer activism and slacktivism. What's consumer activism? What's an example of that? Like being an activist as a consumer. What do you think that's about?
Maybe like voicing your opinion on the product you're receiving?
Yeah, you're like, hey, you know what? They kill cows to take the hide to make this leather for this company, right? Like, did you know, right? That the leather coat you're wearing, that they use some unethical practice to kill the cow to just get the leather, right? And like, we don't think that's good. We gotta sort of boycott that. We gotta picket that. Walk around, hang around in front of the store, right, with a bullhorn. Don't buy from here, they kill the whales and the snails and whoever. Somebody's gonna say something.
If someone wants to buy only organic things, or like, I don't know how to say in English, but just for the planet and everything.
Yeah, you're like, hey, someone who wants to promote like environmentally friendly or healthy things, or things that are organic from the earth, right? Not processed, not mixed in with a bunch of toxic things. Really important. Think about that. The major thing probably be food. We all gotta eat food, right? For the most part, we don't know where most of it comes from unless it's fruits and veggies, but even still, we don't know what the process was to get it to the grocery store, right? And then we see organic, but then you're like, what does that really mean? Still gotta do some stuff to get it here on the shelf. Is organic really organic? Or are you just labeling that? Are you like a very savvy food distributor? You're like, hey, we gotta get an organic game. How do we do that? Well, the law says that we just need to do these things in order to label it organic. So we just do these minimum things but really there's a lot of harmful things still associated with it. Right, so you go out and you find out this information and you become an activist, right? You picket, you talk, you boycott, right? You can boycott. You can say, hey, this company's racist because of the CEO just tweeted blah, 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 right? Don't support them, they are blah, blah, blah. Something of the sort, right? Cancel them. Which is part of even like jamming up the culture, right? Kind of shaking things up and getting people to notice something's going on. And then corporate, social, political activism. Hey, how can the companies participate in activism? With the government. How do companies get in bed with the government? Or get sort of their goals met? What can the companies do? To get the laws changed in their favor. Some regulations changed, some contracts. What do you think? What can they do? Right, they can lobby. Right? They can lobby, they can donate. Right? They can slander other companies. Right? They can slander something about what they're doing versus what you're doing. Right? A lot of the things that corporations can get involved in. Hey, we want to get the taxes lower to change how people buy. Taxes lower so we can change the price so we can beat our competitors. We lower our taxes, we can beat the competitors. More people will buy more of our stuff. And then the E, the economic, right? We say market access and literacy. What's the literacy portion, you think, in that? Right? Yes.
Is the literacy aspect like how well people understand how like the economy works?
Yeah, how easy it is for people to understand that the economy works, even something exists, right? Communication, right? The literacy is the communication. How easy have you made it for people to know? Like, if you don't know, you don't know. You don't know, you won't buy, right? You know, you buy what you know, right? One way we may have changed that is through search engine marketing. Search engine optimization, we go on Google, right? And whatever the 5 things at the top, that's what we see. Why? Nobody in this class is clicking page 2, right? You've never, probably ever in your life, clicked page 2 of the Google results, ever, right? You saw the first 5, maybe 6, 7 things at the beginning, and those things were paid for. They pay Google to be in a ranking system. Like, hey, put us up here, right? Here's some money, put us up here. So when people search for different words, this is what comes up, and that influences what you buy. Because once again, if you don't know, you don't buy, right? So the literacy, the market access. The S is the social domain, right? Social justice and cancel culture. It kind of correlates with this. Activism, right? You know, we have a bunch of groups that have a vested interest to just try to cancel people. They're literally looking for something to nitpick on corporations. It could be corporate espionage, right? They think of how like down and dirty it gets as a business, as a corporation. You may literally pay people, right? They're not on the books. You may pay them cash. You may pay them anything to sabotage another corporation. Like, oh, go search their Twitter, their Facebook, make sure, okay, did they say something? Did the CEO, what about anybody who worked there? Search all the people that work there, their LinkedIn, their TikTok, and see people that work there and promote that. Like, man, you get people that work here that are like really bad people, right? For whatever reason. Good market share for us, change the dynamic, right? Anyone here has read the book The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli. Anyone's ever heard of The Prince? Machiavelli. What have you heard about it?
Remember it, maybe it's about like, telling you how you should act in the world, something about, I think it's like about a lion metaphor.
It's about power, right? Lioness power. Probably one of the most influential books in human history on power. How to get it and how to maintain it, right? A bit of deception, manipulation, you execute people at the top, you assassinate, you kill them all, you killed out all their successors, right? Used for any powerful group. If you went into politics, you probably read it. If you had any ambition to be a politician, you've read the book, right? If you went to prison, like I'm in the prison system, now prison environment, right? And you join a gang, the gang's gonna say, hey, read The Prince. Let us know, you know? If you are a high-level CEO, most likely you've read it, right? So what's the book about? The book is about that life is a system of systems of power at all times. All times. Parents have power over their children, right? Your parents have power over you. They're like, no more money for you. You like to talk smack? All right, well, you're not getting no more funding for college. Better go drop out. Hey, don't want to live for talk smack? Get out of here. Well, be homeless. Power, right? Go to work, you got a boss. Yes, boss, I'm sorry that I'm late. It won't happen again. Power, right? It exists in every walk of life, whether you are conscious of it or unconscious of it. So the book focuses on realism. It's like in our minds, there's an ideal world that we wish existed. When we come back to reality, there's the real world. And we all know that the real world is harsh, right? It may not work out for you. Tough. Right? You ever talk to your parents, they probably give you tough love. They're like, oh, so I don't know what to tell you, right? That's the reality. And so if you understand the real situations, you can manipulate things or observe things to get power over others. Or entire countries, entire groups, depending on the messaging, the perceptions, all sorts of things. Strategic moves. Making a little bit of moving this here over here, moving this over there, right? And you keep a close-knit circle. My dad, growing up, Dad was, interesting for him. His dad was involved in the Italian mafia, right? And so a lot of these guys had read The Prince. Machiavelli's Italian, too. So for them, they love that stuff. But everything was really about deception and control and really taking out anybody that poses a threat, right? When I went and did research as a psychologist, I studied hyperviolence, Mexican drug cartels, right? And you're like, why are you going around chopping up bodies into 30 pieces and leaving it in the middle of the town, or on the highway where people are going to work, or having bodies hanging from the bridge, the head is upside down? Like, what's the point, right? Like, what's the message? What are you trying to do, right? Power, fear is power. If you see that, you're not going to say nothing and keep your mouth closed. Is it right? No. Is it effective? Yes. Right? That's the real world. That ideal is like, oh my gosh, I wish that wasn't happening. Like, well, dream on, it's happening. So what do we do about it? Right? We got to figure out something to do. So if you never read The Prince, read it. It's one of those, in terms of power and all, like people like to read Robert Greene, 52 Laws of Power, something like that. Right? But that one is sort of the cornerstone of that. Okay, the next aspect is technological, data privacy. Hey, why is Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok free? Why is it free? Like, how could it be free? Why is Google even free? Why is it free? Yeah.
They want to get like as many people to use their site, but So they don't need to get the money from you, the consumer, they have to get it from the person delivering the message to you.
Yeah. You're like, hey, those services are about creating a marketplace, which is you. They want as many people in the marketplace. Why? So that corporations can get on there, content creators, anybody that's selling anything of any kind, can say, hey, that's where everybody's at, so I gotta be on there, right? So now you charge the companies to advertise, right? Charge the companies to be on the Google results on the first page, right? So you think about that, how do they get, they're like, hey, we need information, Google, Facebook, Facebook owns Instagram and WhatsApp, Google, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, we need everyone's information. And they'll sell it, they'll give it, right? They're like, hey, what demographic? 18 to 25, this income, males, right? These, blah, blah, blah. Filter down, and then it starts to pop up in your algorithm. You click on it one time, immediately you start seeing more. Like, man, I didn't want, I just happened to click on that. Why keep showing me more stuff? The algorithm changed, right? Based on your information of your behavior. Different advertisers got their content on there for different searches. Whatever you search, different ad pop up. So there's issue with data privacy, like, well, I don't know what you're doing, you got all my information, Facebook, right? Who are you really selling it to? I don't know, somebody might get access to it on the dark web. Like now, I find a way to get your social security number or something. Or you just don't know, like they have the information, you don't know what they're doing, it's being sold. So really, you as yourself, you're making them billions of dollars and you don't even know it. Right? Making a ton of money because we like to scroll, right? We like to look at things. Yes.
I remember, like, I don't know if it was like 2 years ago, but getting an email from like Instagram saying something about data privacy, and then they like funded people who responded to the email.
Oh yeah. Was it like a data leak, or was it like a lawsuit, or?
Something like that, I don't remember though, I forgot like.
Thinking that, we always, every once in a while you see a lawsuit, and like, oh, hurry up and sign, you got 2 weeks to sign up, and you get some money from Facebook. Anyone ever got any money from the social media sites? As part of like, a lawsuit? Right, cause they're always doing that, they're always calling in Mark Zuckerberg into Congress to talk about data privacy issues. They're always revamping, hey, Facebook has new terms and agreement on privacy, right? Pops up when you log into the app randomly. So we got that algorithm bias, data security, social media addiction, which is a huge one. What can we do about that? How can that change?
Delete apps.
How do you get people to delete apps? Like, how do you curb the addiction on TikTok? Let's just say, no more TikTok and no more Instagram. Out your life. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, gone.
And resist it. You just got to. Gotta be willing to.
But remember we say, hey, human beings, overall, over life, over death, over lies, over truth, human beings seek pleasure. We want to feel good, right? We want to feel good. Even going back to the mafia cartel, you're like, oh, if I get caught, oh, he's loyal. He's not a snitch, not a rat. We did the crimes together. He's not a rat. As soon as you get in there, talking to the police, or you're talking to the prosecutor in like 50 years. You want to see your children, your family, mom, dad for 50 years, like I'm snitching on them. Right? It's part of our being. We want self-preservation first. That's overall. Forget loyalty, forget being a rat. All that sounds really cool. Sounds really, really cool. Self-preservation is number one. You care about yourself more than others. It's just how. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like the way that we live our life now, like we're more on our phones than ever. I don't really feel like that's gonna change unless you choose to like step out back and be like, okay, like I'm not gonna be on my phone as much as I normally am, because like you see people walking around school just like on their phone, walking down the street on their phone, so it's just a decision like.
Yeah, people crossing the street walking So you're like, all right, there's an addiction, right? What can we do? I don't know, government get involved, but then you're like, here's the thing, if they do, when is TikTok supposed to be banned?
Yeah.
Which is 4 days, or 5 days from now?
You serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the books right now, we'll see what happens, right? Usually like, what Trump will be in office on the 20th, so yeah, it'll be like a big thing. On the 19th or 18th, you'll hear like Congress has uplifted the ban for the 6-month great experience. It'll be something like that, the last minute. And remember that too. We say, hey, this is not a mistake. When you make an observation in society, there are no coincidences, or very few. Things go to the last second, so the media can squeeze every juice out of the lemon to keep you talking about something, right? TikTok used as promotion. If they win the case, they're like, oh, we just beat the U.S. government. Everybody is looking to squeeze what they could benefit. So this is about benefits, really, right? You see something out there, not coincidence, really on purpose. No coincidence, it's the 19th new president on the 20th. Right? Or 16th, or whatever Trump is on. There's no coincidence that those dates are that close, right? The media to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. Everybody wins. Billions of dollars. Advertisers will be on Fox News and CNN. Everybody's making a killing, right? So it's always about money. Don't let it fool you. It's always about money. Always. Money or power. Okay, but here's the deal. Hey, I like TikTok. And I don't want them to go away. I think that should be a right. And I think rights should be greater than the government. Because we represent the government, right? And a few politicians shouldn't be able to say they can take TikTok away from us for national security purposes. You're like, no issue with Facebook and Instagram national security. No, they're American companies, but that's a bias. They still could be selling it, right? They're like, you may take a different stance on it depending on your rights. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, about the social media addiction and TikTok getting banned. I've seen on TikTok that people from here, from America, are going to a Chinese app called Red Note, but it's like exactly the same thing, but giving more information now to the Chinese people instead of TikTok that is from Singapore.
Yeah.
And it's so funny to see how they are even using, I think, their social security number as their users for
As a
that
username?
app. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Cause like they wanted to ban TikTok because it gets information for the people or things like that.
Yeah.
But then the people, as long as they don't get silenced, they just go to another app just to still getting that addiction.
Yeah. You're like, hey, the government's trying to alter behavior, and we're just like, no, dude, our behavior is our behavior. Like, you can't change it, right? Eliminate TikTok, the new TikTok will form 2 days later, right? It's always an opportunity. No one's gonna let that spacious void be there open like that. People are like, no, that's billions of dollars. Get in on that very quickly. Someone else had a comment. Who wants TikTok to stay? Who wants TikTok to go? Or, could kind of care less if they go or not. Why? Oh, because are you not on it?
I'm on it all the time, I'll be honest.
Not on it all the time,
I'm not on it.
not on it. If you're on it all the time, how come?
Because it's too addicting, I need to get off of it, like, there's so
So
many.
you recognize it as a problem.
Yeah.
But what about Instagram? Is it just as much as a problem?
No.
So TikTok's more quicker dopamine response. Like, the videos are quicker, shorter, and
Wow.
maybe the way it's rearranged allow people to just keep seeing more or something. What is it?
Like, I watch videos and I make videos, so
Mhm.
it's like, I don't know, it's fun for me, but like, I know that it's very time consuming and like looking at my screen time, I'm like, there's so many more better things that I can do with my life. To be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you remember we say, hey, mental health can increase with consumerism, even social media usage. People are not feeling satisfied. think about it, here's the real kicker. You're like, hey, there's a real physiological and mental thing to it. You have a number of dopamine reserves at one particular time. You go on TikTok and keep using it. Ooh, I like that video. Ooh, I like that video. You go for 30 minutes, you literally depleted in your brain between the synapses your dopamine reserves. So physically you feel drained, and if you feel drained, you feel slightly low, depressed, you feel tired, right? You feel all these different things. You don't have energy. Why? Because dopamine is energy. Until you gave it to TikTok. Alright, so there's some real things that are correlated physiologically with TikTok. Alright, I want TikTok to stay because I'm a free market person. I think they should be able to compete. And once again, I think that the consumers should have the power. If they demand it, it should stay. Right? I believe in supply and demand. You demand it, you like it, keep it. Until a new competitor comes, and then maybe we go somewhere else. But until that, I don't think the government should interject in everything because it's a bias. Always bias. Bias always exists. So what one person wants, based on some condition of their beliefs of who they are. And the government's bias. Alright, cyberbullying. Alright, that's the technological aspect. Anyone here, say in high school, experienced any cyberbullying or just observed it? Maybe a lot of your schools or anything? Was that an issue or no? No? Right, it happened. Cyber beefs. People killing each other in the streets of Chicago, Instagram Live, Facebook Live.
I would say it's not really a big thing, but it's easy to like identify like ways of cyberbullying.
It is?
Yeah. Cause even like your littlest like trolling, or we call it trolling, or just like taking a shot at somebody on social media, it could be used as cyberbullying.
Yeah, you're like, hey, all of us don't have the same emotional intelligence. Some of us are triggered very, very easily, right? By certain words we're triggered, certain things, you know, and others not so much. But for those who are easily triggered, they become victims very quickly. Not good for them or their well-being. And especially when we're talking about children. So really it's like protecting children from that, right? Because they don't have the mental capacity to sort of master that. Okay, and then the L part is government regulations and agencies. Hey, how can government change the behavior of consumers or marketers? How does government do it?
Could change the price of certain things that can lead people to go away from it. Let's say the government's like, hey, eat 8 roller skates. You only roller skate no more. It's gonna be $100 roller skate.
By taxing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, the government taxes certain products, certain markets, certain industry, certain sector, a certain activity, the government taxes it. And if it gets taxed, that company has to raise the price. At the end of the day, you gotta pay a higher price. And if it's too high, you stop buying it. You look for an alternative. So government regulations, and agencies. Think of agencies we have in the government. Several. The Department of Education, right? Public school systems, right? You think of EPA. So if you're dumping waste, and the EPA comes out with a new law to say, hey, you can't dump at these particular sites, you gotta find a new one. Totally change the whole business, right? Totally change how you dump waste. Corrective advertising, you know, basically marketers can false advertise, right? But if we are a little bit lax on what they could say and how much they could kind of lie, right? That could be an issue too. Consumer theft and counterfeiting. How is that a thing in the marketplace? Counterfeiting. Like, what are some examples of how counterfeiting changes the marketplace? Any products you could think of that are highly counterfeited?
usually any sort of like expensive like clothing brand, there will be people who will make cheap copies of it that will try to imitate it as closely as they can without facing legal issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember we say, hey, we wanna feel good, so you might get the knockoff, cause why? The look is more important than the quality. And the look, the price is just too ridiculous for the real thing, right? At the end of the day, you kinda like, if nobody really knows, it doesn't matter, right? Think of your favorite rapper, like you see the chains in the video, you're not there. You don't know if it's real, you don't know if it's moissanite, you don't know if it's cubic zirconia, you don't know if it's a silver chain, you don't know. Literally could all be fake, cause it's theatrical, it's a production, camera guy, sound guy, blah, blah, blah. But you like the influence on consumer behavior, and everybody wants that. But you want that, why? Cause I saw that in the video, like, that was fake. Nobody knows, right? But it works. The point is, you say it's effective. You're gonna say the point was like, is it effective? Will people buy it? The answer is yes, they'll buy it, right? Fake or not. You were gonna say something.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I don't know, I used to watch, like, the Kardashians, and when she started selling, like, Kylie Cosmetics, she found out that people were selling her, like, fake products on the street, and then I guess people were, like, complaining about the original, like, high quality product.
Okay, was it like a watered down version, or was it like they're the same stuff, just they weren't selling?
It wasn't the same product at all, they were making it, and like, obviously, like, when you buy cheaper stuff, it's not good for your skin.
Not good for your
so-
skin. Alright, so right, we got our favorite, the Kardashians, right? Yeah, hey, selling skincare products and things like that, and then there's bootleggers, right? But at the end of the day, like, why would people buy from the bootleggers? It's too expensive, maybe, for the real thing, what Kim K and her sister did. So, yeah.
I think of like movies. So like for instance, I watched like allegedly Transformers 1 on like 1, 2, 3 movies. And then you go to the theater, got it for free. It's pretty cool, you know. At Transformers 1, the people who made it weren't too happy about that, but I had a good time.
So you get the movies for free.
Yeah. Like, on the laptop, they don't have a subscription or nothing. It's great.
Yeah, hey, if we can find a way to do it, we'll do it, cause at the end of the day, more pocket, more money in your pocket. Literally think about this, we kind of, we break copyright laws practically every day, several times a day. Anybody made a reel on Facebook, Instagram, anything, you use somebody else's music, and they didn't even profit from it, right? You're like constantly using everybody's music, and their family is still not making any money from it. But the social media aspect has just eliminated like copyright, for the most part, right? There's still some copyright strikes on YouTube, or you get flagged. This video couldn't be posted, and replace the song or background noise or something. Yes.
I was about to say that with YouTube, because YouTube is big on like copyright now.
They only recently did. Before, you could put anything up there. Now they like starting to
Yeah, they had taken over.
get strict with that. Yeah. But you have to think, you're like, hey, why do they allow it then but not now? Why are they so heavy handed? Well, you're like, YouTube also has, remember it says, never about, generally speaking, it's usually not about you think they're doing a good thing, it's always about money. So YouTube has YouTube Music. So they're like, no, man, go to YouTube Music or something to get the music or watch it on our other platform over there, right? Don't do it here bogusly, use it the right way so that we get the money from the advertisers, or you buy the music through YouTube Music. Just like you would with Apple Music or something like that. We're trying to force you to kind of do it the right way, even though they, kind of perceive that they're being ethical, but they just really want the money, right? And then consumer theft, a big one in Chicago. You're like, hey, you know what? The politics and the environment in Chicago has allowed criminals, right, to kind of get away with a lot more consumer theft than they would in the past, right? We've taken power away from the police. Like, there's only so many things you can do. Don't, if someone's running with a gun, don't chase them down the alley. You gotta let them go, right? hey, we may change the amount that's considered a misdemeanor of theft. So you're like, hey, anything under, let's say anything under $100, you can be considered misdemeanor theft. That literally means if you walk in and steal $99 worth of stuff and walk out, you won't get charged. Right? Remember I said we're opportunistic, we're self-preservation. Whoever thinks they can get away with it will do it, usually, right? So you're like, hey, the politics made it to where these businesses are losing a lot of money. People are stealing. Walmart with the self-scan, the blah, 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 changing tags, smash and grab, right? And the business like, hey, what are you gonna do about the stuff we lost, city? And the city's like, well, I don't know. Right? And the business like, you know what, Chicago? Screw you, I'm out of here. We're going to Texas, we're going to California, where they're like, we'll kill the people. We're allowed to kill the people if they come steal. I wanna be up here in Chicago, politics where they let everybody get away with everything. They're like, it's losing money. It's not smart business. So like that even changes the behavior. A lot of companies have left. Big companies have left because of that. Like it's not worth it to have, you might have a very fancy luxury clothing store downtown and people are smashing and grabbing and the police might be 1 block away and like, hey, we can't do nothing. They already ran off or something. Our superiors told us don't chase them. They're like, well, what about us as a business? Like, I don't know what to tell you. Right? What are you gonna say?
I forget it.
Alright, so you're like, hey, you know what? Even stuff like that. Or even, will even employees be stolen too? So we can consider that too. And then lastly, we have the environmental part. Right? We're concerned about the environment. Remember the most powerful thing in life outside of culture is environment. Culture is probably the most powerful thing that influences how you look, how you dress, your hairstyle, what you eat, where you go, how you talk, dialect, language, right? Who you are, who you think you are, who you're trying to be, et cetera, et cetera. Right? But like environments that equally important or maybe even more important. Can't escape your environment. Right? Environment literally changes your genes. Your environment long enough, your genetic code changes about new instructions on how to survive in this environment. You go to prison, be a very nice person, give it a month or two, you'll be shaving a little shank in the corner. Right? You become prison minded, because that's the environment. If not, you become a victim. Nobody wants to be a victim, right? You want to survive. It's painful. So environmental things. Like, so environment is very, very, very powerful. And so there are a lot of groups,